So today we're talking about triangle congruence shortcuts. Two geometric figures are congruent if and only if a rigid motion or composition of rigid motions maps one of the figures onto the other. A rigid motion maps each part of a figure to a corresponding part of its images. Make sure your phones are away. So looking at this picture, I want to see which angles are congruent. I have one angle mark here and one angle mark here, so angle B and angle Q are congruent. Then I have two tick marks, or two angle marks here and two angle marks here, so angle A is congruent to angle P. And then the three angle marks is C and R, so angle C is congruent to angle R. And then my corresponding sides that are congruent, I'm looking at the tick marks. So from A to B, I have one tick mark. And then from P to Q, I have one tick mark. Then from B to C, I have two tick marks, and Q to R, I have two. Then from C to A, I also have from P to R. No, same order, R to P. So I have the third angles theorem. This states that if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angles are congruent. So this picture shows me that angle B is congruent to angle E, and angle A is congruent to D. So because these two are congruent, that means that these third angles have to also be congruent. So I have some triangle congruence shortcuts. One of them is side angle side. So this is if two sides and the included angle so the angle in between the two sides are congruent, then the two triangles are also congruent. So if I look at my first pair of sides, I have PQ is congruent to WX. And then the angle in between them is angle Q and angle X. And then my other congruent sides are Q and S and X and Y. Then that means the two triangles are going to be congruent. So I have triangle PQS is going to be congruent to triangle, and I want to name in the same order, so WXY. Okay, the next one I have is side, side, side. If the three sides of one triangle are congruent to another three sides of another triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. So I'm going to list out my congruent sides. I have NM, and then I have RQ. That matches up because those both have the one tick mark. Then I have NP is going to be congruent to RS because those both have the double tick mark. And then my last side is PM and SQ because those have the three tick marks. Then I just want to name my triangles in the same order. So I have NMP is congruent to triangle RQS. Okay. So on the back side, it wants me to state which triangle congruent shortcut is being used and to solve for X and Y. So if I look at this, I have these two angles are both right angles. And then this angle right here is going to be a vertical angle with this. Remember we talked about vertical angles when we first learned about intersecting lines. And then I have this congruent side. So I'm looking at this angle, this angle, this angle, this angle, and my side. So it goes angle, we can talk about that one, oh well. This one is angle, side, angle. Okay. Then I just need to go ahead and solve for my matching. These are sides. So my hypotenuse here is x, and my hypotenuse here is 20. So this one is x equals 20. And then my other leg is y and 13. So y equals 13. Number 2 wants me to say which one I would use. I have my 3 angles, but if I notice, this 6 is between the 60 and the 30. This 6 is not between the 60 and the 30, it's between the 60 and the 90. So these two are actually not congruent. Okay, this one the triangle markings are a little hard to see. I have double angle here, or double tick marks here, double tick marks here, triple here, and triple here. I also know that if they share a side, it has to be congruent. So this one is by 3 sides. So the angle with the x is in between the 2 and the 3. In between the 2 and the 3, I have the 62. So I have 3x plus 2 equals 62. So when I subtract 2 on both sides, I get 3x equals 60. And I want to divide both sides by 3. Bless you. I get x equals 20. And then my y angle is in between the 1 and 3. So that matches up with the 17 that's in between the 1 and 3. I have 4y minus 5 equals 17. So when I add 5 to both sides, I have 4y equals 22. Divide both sides by 4, and I get y equals, this simplifies because they're both even, 11 over 2. So over here on A, this is very hard to see. I have 1 tick mark right there. I have an angle right here. And then I have a double tick mark right here. So this one is going to be side angle side. Because if I go in order, it goes side angle side. Over here I have 1 tick mark, an angle, a double tick mark. 1 tick mark, an angle, and a double tick mark. But notice the congruent angle is not in between both of those sides. So this one is not enough information. On C, I have 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks, 3 tick marks. 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks, 3 tick marks. So these have 3 sides in common. And then on my last one, this 9 is in common with itself. These 7s are in common. But then I have 3 and 4, which are not the same. So these ones are not congruent.